Welcome to this week's devotionals. Again, questions that arise from this, please send them in. Love to interact with and try to give, a greater understanding of the overall picture as we're going through the Bible 5 minutes at a time. At least that's my goal for 5 minutes. Genesis 23. On the surface, seems a little mundane. Abraham, his wife dies, and he barters for a plot of land. That was important enough to be included in the Bible. The answer to why this is important is it is tied to another of God's promises to Abraham and his descendants, the land. The promise of God wasn't just for a child and a bunch of descendants through whom there'd be someone to bless all the nations. There was also a promise of land that these descendants would occupy. Up to this point, Abraham has been on the land, but he's not technically owned any of it. And now, though, there is a piece of land that is his and his descendants. Think of it as a deposit on the fulfillment of the rest of the promise. That's how ancient readers would have seen this account. It's part of God's faithfulness to this part of his promise. It's a symbol that the rest is yet to come. The land was an important facet of the promise of God in the Old Testament covenants he made with Abraham, and then later with the nation of Israel under Moses. There is a reason it is called the promised land. Land to peoples who were agrarian in their society, farmers. Land is vastly important. If you don't have land, you can't farm. If you don't have land, you can't raise animals. It's also security and the promise of provision for the future. This is security for your family going forward in future generations. Though we should note, in the covenant Jesus brought, there's no mention of land in the new covenant. And that's one of the differences between the old covenant and the new covenant. The new covenant is not about a people with a particular land or a particular state, but it's a people of every nation, tribe, and tongue. There's no one ethnicity or one region that is the people of God. It's the church. And so while many Christians still today call Israel the Holy Land, in the new covenant, there is no true holy land. It's the people themselves that are holy, a temple dedicated to God, a temple of God. One other thing I want to mention, a little bit of history outside of the Bible. In this chapter, we see reference to the Hittites, a people who were leaders or influential in this area, in Canaan, at this time. About 150, 200 years ago, there was no historical archaeological record of the Hittite peoples outside of the Bible. In fact, some critics of the Bible went, well, how can we trust the Bible is true? They talk about this people, the Hittites, as though they're important, and we have no record of them at all. As archaeology continued, they found more and more not just evidence of the Hittites' existence, but of the Hittites being an empire that predated the Assyrians. And so I want to just kind of point this out to us, that there are still some unanswered questions about what the Bible historical record is that we don't have confirmation of outside of the Bible. However, the more and more information that has been uncovered by archaeologists, historians, and those that work in those disciplines, they have continually and unfailingly found evidence to support what the scriptures record as being historical, accurate, and true. And so my only point is to say we can't prove every detail of the biblical narrative. The list of details, though, has just kept growing shorter and shorter. And so I do believe we have more than enough reason to trust the Bible as a historical document. We need to read it in its culture. We need to read it in its original context, but it is an account, first of all, to be read, reflected on, and used to hear God's voice to us. And so the thought for today, in the new covenant, there is also a deposit given to guarantee the fulfillment of all the promises of that covenant. And that deposit is the Holy Spirit. And so I just want to encourage you today to trust what the Holy Spirit gives to us, the presence of Jesus within us, that we are part of the temple, the dwelling place of God in our town, in our province, in this world. You are, as a follower of Jesus, not just part of the church, you're part of the temple of God, and a representative, a priest, able to reflect God to those around you. How is God leading you in this today? As you consider that, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today, would you know his peace? God bless.